Bill Diggs. I'm the Executive Director for the Miami-Dade Economic Advocacy Trust, and we are welcoming you to our new show, which I'm really excited about. It's called Black Prosperity in Miami-Dade County with the Miami-Dade Economic Advocacy Trust. I'm so excited about this because, we have been toiling in the fields in regards to economic empowerment in our community for the last 2 years since I've been here. As a matter of fact, next week will be 2 years that I've been the executive director. I'm thrilled about that. And so, really our focus, each and every week, as old people would say, same bad time, same bad station, we'll be talking about Black prosperity in Miami-Dade County. We consider ourselves, our organization, to be the go-to organization for economic development in the Black community and economic empowerment. So what better way to kick off this new show by really getting into the nuts and bolts of who the Miami-Dade Economic Advocacy Trust is. And so I've got my constant sidekick, the guy that has really built a great brand that has helped us to put the Miami-Dade Economic Advocacy Trust on the map. And that's none other than my public information officer, our public information officer, Mr. Zachary Reekins. Zachary, good morning.
Good morning, Mr. Diggs. Glad to be here on the show.
Good. Well, man, thanks for coming. And by the way, listen, when we're not in the office, call me Bill.
All right.
Right? We've got a lot happening, man. I mean, and I can tell you, it's funny because when we look back over the 40 years that our organization, has been around, we were created because of the riots that took place that really decimated our community. And then at the end of the discussion, we realized that there really were two Black Miamis, right? There were two Miamis, one that was Black and underserved. And so the county commission, along with the mayor at the time and the leadership, said, we need to do something to fix this. And consequently, they created, the organization that was our predecessor was called MAP, the Metropolitan Miami Action Plan Trust. And there have been some great people that have run that organization. But I think that when I came on board and I begged you to come to work for me, the thing that was so important is we realized that with Miami becoming the epicenter for the economy, as a matter of fact, just the other day, a leading business person, one of our local billionaires, said that he believes that Miami-Dade County is poised to become the center of the financial world.
Ken Griffin, he talked about how Miami could very well become the financial capital, that we could replace New York, and that's not far-fetched when you consider the amount of aggregate billionaires that are coming to this community.
Yeah.
But I have an affinity for the Miami-Dade Economic Advocacy Trust. It was birthed in 1983. I was born in 1982. I happened to do my thesis on the agency.
Wow.
And so basically, we as an organization believe that we can pivot as a community from riot to revitalization. And we do believe that there's a certain quality of life that attracts people from across the world to come to create their American dream through these shores. And so we definitely believe that Miami-Dade County has a quality of life, one that's world-renowned, right. But we believe that the people who have been here, who signed the incorporation papers and things of that nature, the people that look like you and I, that they deserve access to that quality of life. And so I'm glad to be a part of an organization that every day we're pushing the bit, trying to be innovative to make sure that we're expanding opportunities for people that are at socioeconomic disparities.
Yeah, and you're right about that. I mean, so, when you take a look at kind of who we are, right, we're defined by 4 different areas in regards to what we do. And those areas are as different as they are the same. And I call it the cradle to grave mentality in regards to really trying to build wealth in our community.
Absolutely.
And so we can't leave out how important it is, Pericles, the Greek philosopher, said a long time ago that just because you don't take an interest in politics doesn't mean that politics won't take an interest in you. So from that perspective, we're grounded in that, right, through research and advocacy. We realize that not only do we have to worry about the body politic, but we have to be able to navigate those dangerous streets to make sure that the issues that are affecting us every day, that we are taking a vital role in it. And so, with that, we do a lot to try to wrap our arms around understanding the political environment as it sits. Here's a beautiful thing about that, and then we'll get into some of the other, different divisions of our organization. Presently, there are 13 commissioners on the Miami-Dade County Commission, right? There are 5 very able folk of color that are part of that.
Absolutely.
4 of them are lawyers,
Yes.
right? One of them is a ground in the street, having built the Haitian community through strength, resolve, tremendously knowledgeable about that, and that's Commissioner Bastien. And then, of course, you have, Commissioner McGee, Commissioner Cohen-Higgins, Commissioner Hardiman, right? And then you have our chair, Oliver Gilbert. It's a good time for us, man.
Absolutely.
And so I think that from that perspective, we have to do it right? I mean, I think that the goal is to make sure that our other departments, which are housing, right, economic development, also we have, we've got the other departments in my mind.
Yeah, housing, economic development, youth services.
Youth services, yeah.
And we also have research and advocacy. We've been doing such a great job of expanding the scope of the agency that is dynamic. And we've been very aggressive in terms of taking a comprehensive approach to ensure that this community gets access to the prosperity that they deserve. And so it's been very dynamic and growing, quite frankly. And I'm looking forward to talk about how our investments in this community have grown over the course of the last 2 years.
And I think that's what's amazing. I've got to give our staff,
Absolutely,
credit for a lot because, also too, there's a lot that we had to problem solve, for lack of a better way to say it, right? But let's talk about economic development. For a minute, Zachary, take some time to take us through kind of what economic development looks like and kind of what we're up to there.
Well, I would just say that we've heard the antidote that when the greater America has a cold, that Black America has pneumonia. And so you basically inherited an agency post-pandemic, or really right in the heart of the pandemic. And so Black people have fared a little bit harder over the course of the pandemic. We're still not recovering. Our businesses didn't have the type of structural support at that time to receive a lot of the federal grants and things of that nature. And so the leadership of our organization, along with coordination of our board and the county commission, saw an opportunity to make a deeper investment into the Black community. And so years before, we would often give about $40,000, $2,500 grants. Sometimes we quadrupled those grants. And so over the course, we transformed a $2,500 grant to a $10,000 grant. And I think that that's a testament to our economic development manager, Robert Parson, our business expansion specialist, Latoya Bird. And so the hard work that they're doing to make sure that we get certain investment within the community. And so we transformed a $2,500 grant program that was given about $40,000 in grants total to a grant program where we gave over $250,000 at $10,000 a clip. And so with that investment, along with investing in the startup communities, and I'm very excited about that, we have a very responsive economic development division. While they were doing outreach and doing various things, they heard feedback from the startup community. Hey, it would be helpful if we had some support to strengthen our businesses. And that's something that's very novel and innovative, because a lot of startup companies they're undercapitalized, particularly if they're Black. They're undercapitalized, and many of them don't necessarily succeed to that 2-year mark. So for us as an agency to make the astute investment to give them a cash infusion at such a very vulnerable state in their business life was very helpful. We also not only gave them the $2,500 cash infusion, but we supported memberships into groups, because we believe that it takes a community to be successful. And so we help them build ecosystems. And so one of the things that Mr. Parson and Ms. Bird did was, as a part of that startup grant, was to provide additional resources. And so those resources were like connections to the Miami-Dade Chamber of Commerce, South Dade Connections, and also Black Professionals Network. And so that's just one of the examples where we saw that our community weren't getting the level of grants and support from the federal government during the pandemic. And not only did we infuse capital into these businesses, but we also saw an opportunity to give them an ecosystem so that they can build the infrastructure for success. So for us, it's not just about the investment or a one-time investment. It's about really holding their hand throughout this process to help them prosper and be competitive in this economy.
You know, as a matter of fact, it's interesting you say that because as we speak, you know, the small business department that Gary Hartfield runs within Miami-Dade County is going through their own version of a disparity study, right? And we know that, you know, less than 3%, less than 1% in some cases of all vendors that get business from the county happen to be Black. I mean, you know, and from my perspective, you know, that makes no sense, right? I mean, it doesn't. And I think that the thing that I'm most proud of is not just the fact that we're giving these folk money, but that we're helping to create opportunities so that they will be able to scale.
Sure.
Right. I mean, you know, listen, the county's a $14 billion animal, you know, you know, but they're buying one widget at a time.
Right.
So you've got to get these companies ready to participate. And so one of the things that we've done is we work with Gary Hartfield organization and LaWanda Robinson and the rest of those folk in small business so that they can help to analyze and get these businesses ready to do business with the county. Because we want to make sure that the dollars that we've given them are smart dollars that will in return create real investment in our communities. Because you know, we all know that there's real encroachment that's taking place in our communities. And, you know, when we call it gentrification, right? Our major concern has always been trying to make sure that we can protect the home front. I mean, you know, we talked earlier about targeted urban areas being some of the richest land that's left. The fact that our children and their schools that are legacy schools are within those communities, right?
Absolutely.
And so if we're going to be smart, we've got to make sure that you're able to live, work, and play in a community that you have been responsible for building.
Absolutely.
Because let's face it, you know, you mentioned earlier about the fact that here we have, you know, many of the signers of the city of Miami incorporation papers happen to be Black folk and Bahamian at that, right?
Absolutely.
And when you think about that, yeah, the county owes us, the city owes us. We've got to be smart about doing that.
I want to interject. Not only do they owe us, they owe it to themselves to invest in some of the most loyal residents of this community. We're not looking to go anywhere else. We want to make Miami work, and we've invested our lives, our children, and our future here in this county. So the county owes it to itself to make sure that we maximize those people in those underserved and under-resourced communities.
Right. So, you know, so let's pivot for a minute. I want to talk, you know, for a few minutes about how our organization has changed. You know, when we started, we had a program that was funded through, you know, moving violations, and it was called Teen Court. And you know that the world that I come from is not just economic development; it's nonprofit creation and growth. And I saw Teen Court almost as a loss leader. And what I mean by that, I think it does a great service. But I'm sitting here saying that when someone comes to us for Teen Court as a program, as good of a program as it is, after 6 weeks, we kind of hand those folk back over with a certificate that's saying that they now understand that, you know, that things have gone wrong, and here's what we're going to do to right that child through that program by going through Teen Court. But there's an entire family that needs to be serviced as well. And so we were lucky enough to get Dr. Marcus Bright to come and run our new department called Youth Services. And it is just growing like crazy. And we're doing some really high-end, sophisticated talks around the things that are affecting our children that many people did not know about. And we really brought that to the forefront. So talk a little bit about Youth Services, talk a little bit about the school to prison pipeline, and talk a little bit about kind of some of the successes and strides that they've made.
Well, I would just venture to say that every day is Monday at the Miami-Dade Economic Advocacy Trust. The Miami-Dade Advocacy Trust is a place where we're literally working to create prosperity. And so our mission is to ensure that Black residents participate in the economic growth of the county. Well, we're talking about all residents. It's hard to participate if you made a mistake when you're a young person. And so one of the things I've been excited about is the new research that we worked with the University of Miami School of Education and Human Performance to talk about some of the things that's going on in our community. They recently released a report that we commissioned that examined roughly 12 years of arrest reports. And so they found out that there are some economic disparities that occur when that happens. We also found that the overwhelming majority of the young people who were getting arrested looked like you and I, but we only represent about 17% of that population.
Yeah, I was shocked when I heard that. And it's interesting because Jordan Pate Garrett, who is a very adept mental health counselor who helps to run our teen court program. I must have been with MD for, I don't know, maybe a month. And she put this long 11 by 17 green cardboard sheet of paper on my desk. And I said, what is this? It was a listing of every agency that had arrested a child, the race of the child, where they were arrested at and what they were arrested for, and then where they were from. And I sat down and it was a glaring report. I mean, when you looked at this thing, it absolutely in the wide open help you to understand that our children are being arrested at an alarming rate. So I was shocked.
Well, definitely, but it's not just their arrest, because when we put handcuffs on our young people, sometimes we're putting handcuffs on their future. We're arresting their development in some cases. And so that's what Ms. Pate Garrett talks about a great deal in terms of the mental health aspect of it, making sure that we're not locking up their minds, making sure that we're not putting their potential behind bars,
right,
making sure that we provide all the support that they need to really navigate and cope through this system and deal with some of the institutional challenges and the harassment challenges that people that look like us are more likely to face. And so that's been very exciting. But one of the things that Dr. Bright is just talking about is, and challenging us as an agency to do, is to build on-ramps to prosperity. And so we've been very aggressive in terms of having youth conferences that address connecting young people to more lucrative pathways, because we know that it's very expensive to live here in Miami-Dade County. We're one of the least affordable communities to live in the country. And so we have to have young people that are transitioning to higher paying jobs. And so, your staff participated in our partnership with the Miami-Dade College, where we had the Humanity and Healthcare Conference, where we had doctors and podiatrists and surgeons and people of that nature. We brought people that were a part of our youth program. And so they got an opportunity to engage and connect with state-of-the-art facilities and technology, and really see that not only can you become a physician and make $300,000, $400,000 a year, but you can take advantage of some opportunities that might take a year of training, and then you leave that year of training and you're making $70,000 and $80,000 a year, which is above the average salary here in Miami-Dade County. But in terms of talking about the transformation of the Youth Services Division, we basically, when you inherited the organization, it was a teen court program. And of course, we always offered mental health support and mental wellness clinicians, but it transformed into a comprehensive agency. So we went from a teen court program to now including career pathways, where we're connecting young people and onboarding them to more lucrative pathways. But we also have some job readiness and success coaching, where we're connecting young people with job opportunities in this community. And so we're taking a whole comprehensive approach. But right now, I got to tell you, my executive director, you may know him, he's really challenging us to integrate and really create turnkey solutions with all of the services that we're providing throughout the agency, so that if young people are coming through our youth division door, we say we have 4 doors. If they come through our youth division door, we want to make sure we connect them with whatever housing opportunities we may have. If they come through our housing door, we want to make sure that if they have a small business, they're able to connect with our economic development door. And so we also want to continue to research and analyze the data to make sure that we're effective and that we're timely. Because one of the things that I personally agree, one of the things I firmly believe is that we as a Black community, because we're at the bottom of every socioeconomic index, we can't afford to miss.
Yeah, you're right about that. I mean, some kind of way we've got to make sure that we load our gun and then shoot it in the direction of success, right?
Absolutely.
I mean, and I think about that, and it's like, so like, our housing department is probably, needless to say, it's the biggest division that we have within our organization. We've got to make sure that our people are able to stay in their homes. We have to make sure that we know that the beginning of wealth in any culture is based on home ownership. I was reading some stuff earlier about, how pervasive and how difficult it's becoming, because there are major corporations, Goldman Sachs and the types that are now investing and buying homes so that they can rent to people. And I'm thinking to myself that that's a smart business decision on behalf of Goldman Sachs. If it's good for them, it must be good for us in regards to us being able to buy homes as well, right? But we have to do something else, though. We have to let people know that there's gold in our community.
Absolutely.
That on 24th and 57th, that there's wealth that can be built right there. We need to stop thinking so far down the road that we missed the point that a starter home is just as good as a mansion.
Absolutely.
Right? And I think that sometimes we don't have those conversations. And I'll tell you the reason why. You got a kid that goes from wearing Van tennis shoes to $800 Gucci tennis shoes. We forget about the fact that you need to have more money in the bank than you've got on your foot. Right? And so our housing department and that division is really trying to find its way to helping people to understand you must invest in yourself, and by investing in a home, that's exactly what you're doing. So our housing the department today has different angles and ways to get there. So talk for a quick second about what those look like.
Well, I would say that the housing market is very challenging for everybody in the market. A lot of people, Miami-Dade County is a very tough market to navigate. And so I'm very proud of the work that the agency is doing to help residents navigate through a very challenging market. And so one of the stalwart programs we have is our home ownership assistance program. And so basically before you inherited the agency was giving about $10,000 away. Maximum in some cases, and now we've more than doubled that. We are giving up to $28,500.
Yeah, almost triple it. Yeah.
Yeah, and so in many cases, like you can stack those funds with other resources. One of the stories that we worked to get into the media that I'm very proud of was the fact that a young man was able to leverage our dollars with other funds and basically leverage our $28,500 and got $140,000 towards the purchase of a home that was about $330,000.
Right.
And so that was a situation where he was able to get about 40% of his home paid for with subsidies. And so we do have standards that people have to respect and operate in, but those are income standards and family size standards. And so those are federal guidelines. And so I'm very proud of the work we've done to expand a program so that people can get access to more resources. But not getting satisfied with that challenge we found some other creative ways to help the housing market here in Miami-Dade County. We've pioneered and launched a rehabilitation assistance program, which has been a stellar success. We put $1.2 million on the street. I encourage our viewers here today to stay tuned. We plan to talk more about that next week. But we've seen situations where we've been able to give grants of up to $50,000 to over 24 people. That equals $1.2 million. These are forgivable loans long as you stay on your property, as long as you meet those guidelines, as long as you're not trying to refinance or get the money out, that you don't have to pay back.
Yeah, this is about homesteading. It's about improvement of your existing home where you homestead and pay taxes to. That's a big deal, right? Because when you think about wealth creation, that's where you do it at. You take your home and you put your kids through college and you make sure of all that. Like, I gotta tell you something. I've been amazed at the job that Ed Miller and Mr. Egmara have done, and also Marquise Best and the amount of hard pushing that they're doing to make sure that we clean this up. You know what's beautiful though? That itself is a whole dynamic. It's not just that we're giving someone, allowing for them to access $50,000. Man, we're putting people to work.
Absolutely.
The construction people and the folk that are coming in and doing the roofs and the windows and the air conditioning units and the wiring, they're all coming into our community, right? And doing this rebuilding. So I've said to you, if this is grandma's home, you can come back home.
Yep.
You don't have to leave Brown Sub. You don't have to leave Liberty City. You don't have to leave Miami Gardens. You can still stay there and be proud that because listen, if you spend $50,000 in home improvements, the cost of your house and the equity in it is going to rise threefold almost.
Absolutely. And what we're seeing with these projects, and we have to be very clear, this is not a renovation grant. This is a grant that allows you to bring your house up to code. And so if your house is not up to code, if for years we know that there are challenges in terms of affordability here. If grandma's on a fixed income and she hasn't had the opportunity to fix that roof, if grandma's on a fixed income and the pipes have gotten bad and things of that nature, it's not just a dollar figure. There's exponential growth when you bring a house up to code. And so when we bring one house up to code, it transforms literally the value of that community.
There you go, the neighborhood,
because when this house improves, the value of my house improves.
There you go.
And so that gives us an opportunity to really transform communities. And so with the hard work of our colleagues over there, Edwin Miller, like you said, Dagmara Romaine, Eric Johnson, Marquise Best, Markeisha Warren, we got Stanley over there, and Jeremiah and the whole team over there. I hope I didn't forget anybody.
Yeah.
But we got a whole team. Diana. Both my Dianas.
Vivine,
I always joke that I have two Dianas.
Right.
So definitely have two Dianas and Vivine. But the whole team, they're working very hard around the clock to make sure that we get the level of underwriting that we need. And we're still not satisfied. We're leveraging technology.
Sure.
Pretty soon in the community, just stay tuned to what we're doing. We'll tell you about that, but we're leveraging technology. We're really bringing this agency into the 21st century.
Yeah. And
we're bringing real resources into this community, and I'm proud of that. I'm proud to say that we've quadrupled grants. I'm proud to say that when people say, well, it's not affordable, I'm proud to say that you can leverage our funds and stack them with other funds to get up to $140,000. Sure. We want to let the community know that their housing dreams are possible here in Miami-Dade County. And I want them to consider looking in. I own real estate in the Target urban area. I grew up in the Target urban area.
Sure.
Some of my best friends and people that have served as groomsmen at my wedding and people I looked at, they grew up in Target urban areas. And so the Target urban areas, other people see the value of the Target urban areas. Other people are. We have to see the value of the Target urban areas.
We really do. When you take a look and people say, well, Overtown's gone. And I say, well, no, it's not gone, but it's being brought up, but still, you have people that have been in Overtown all their lives and they call themselves towners for life.
Absolutely.
I think that we all need to kind of adopt that moniker and then make it so, right? And not have it not just be a term that we use, and gallivant through it. I think that we need to be smart enough to understand that we need to be the masters of our own domain, right? And so when you really understand what the Miami-Dade Economic Advocacy Trust is up to, it is about building pride in our communities, right?
Absolutely.
And mind you, through an intellectual vehicle that is helping the rest of the community to understand how valuable Black life and culture is. My wife's always fond of saying, that she says everyone wants our rhythm, but very few people want our blues.
Absolutely.
But I think that
I like that.
Yeah, but I also believe this, that we were put here, the Miami-Dade Economic Advocacy Trust, for a moment in time to really shift the discussion around what is truly important. Absolutely. And that is that as goes the Black community, so goes Miami-Dade County. We need to understand the value of that, of being a integral part of this community that can help to bring real opportunity to the rest of us. Because I'm going to tell you, without the culture of Miami, there is no Miami.
Absolutely. That's one
Right.
of our greatest assets.
There you go.
After our people are our greatest assets.
Yeah.
But the cultural flavor
That's
that
right.
Miami contributes
That's
to
right. That's right.
just everything here in this country.
Yeah.
That's why so many people come to our shores
Yeah.
to get their version of the
Yeah.
American dream.
Yeah.
It's something special about Miami-Dade County.
Yeah.
And it's just so great to be able to have an opportunity to serve through the Miami-Dade Economic Advocacy Trust and make those connections. But one of the things I want to talk about is, my job as the public information officer is to market and communicate. My email address is zachary.rinkins@miamidade.gov. There's a lot of value in our communities. If anybody has any great ideas on how we can gamify or encourage people to do the things we need to do to beautify our communities, please let me know, because I believe that we can bring the value of our communities up. If, like, I know Bill Diggs is very particular about how he cuts his yard. Even gave me some tips in terms of how I can manage my yard and make it better. A friend of mine always says, anything can be beautiful if you work at it. I think that if we put some work into these target urban areas, we can make some things happen. And we have to figure out how we insert that beauty there. And if you have a good idea, please send me an email, because that's something I'm really passionate about. I believe our communities are some of the most rich and valuable communities in this county. And so if you have any ideas about how we can work together to do that, I'd be happy to embrace those.
So we've got about 2 minutes left, and I want to make sure that there's two things that we do. One, we want to make sure that we invite people back every week, right? We're going to continue to have these discussions, and we're going to have some of the folk on this show that can bring rise and information to you. That can be folk from Miami. They can be people of Miami. We're going to have some of our thought leaders here, but we're also going to hear from some young folk that we will, at the end of the day, pass the baton to. I am into that. I want to make sure that we leave this county better than we found it. Absolutely. And the only way we can do that is to make sure that we build it in a way that those of us that are going to be left here can accept it, right? We've got to make sure that we are focused on what these young people need and want, not only by having a revisionist thought, but also by having a very forward-thinking mindset around helping them to develop the Miami that they want. And we got to risk it all to do that. We can't be so comfortable that we say, do it my way. We have to be open-minded enough to be able to not just to talk about a vision, but to truly help to actualize one. But also, too, as we get into what we're going to be doing each and every month, I want to remind folk that this forum is an open place to talk about the issues that are going to help us to be great in what we do. We're going to do that. We're going to make sure that people know that the Miami-Dade Economic Advocacy Trust is alive and well, that we are going to respond to the market pressures in a way that's going to make all of us proud. We're going to continue to drive forward the issues and the topics that are going to help all of Miami to understand how important and how valuable people of color that live in this community are. And then we're going to talk about the fact that, that this flavor of South and Central America that happens to be Afro-Cuban and Afro-Latina and African, all that means that you just got off the boat before we did.
Okay.
So I want to close with saying thank you. Always good to see you, Zach. You'll be hearing more from the Miami-Dade Economic Advocacy Trust, and you all have a great, great Thanksgiving.